Vikas, you've recently launched an India-focused fund. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
The fund is quite different from a lot of India dedicated funds which you find across the spectrum. This fund is basically focused on companies which tend to cater directly to, which reach out to the Indian consumers. Everybody knows about the Indian story. People know that it's a land of 1.2 billion people. The important thing to know is the demographic dividend which India represents currently. So 65% of the population is below 30 years of age, which essentially means they are coming into their working lives, which essentially means again they will have a higher disposable incomes. And this you combine with a few trends, mega trends, like like nuclearization of families, dual income earning families, urbanization, and then young working population with their higher aspiration levels, with their higher affordability. So basically this means there's going to be a mass explosion in consumption. There's a Brookings Institution study which was conducted in 2005 which mentioned that Indian middle class, which as per their projections did not figure amongst the top 10 middle class in terms of purchasing power dollars, in terms of in globally, will become the third largest middle income class by 2020, and will become the largest middle income class surpassing US and China by 2040. So essentially India at the present moment is very finely positioned with this demographic dividend, and that's what's going to help companies which cater to these Indian consumers to increase their earnings.
So in what ways is this fund unique?
It's not a generic India fund, which is what you find with a lot of other funds. This fund is, most of the other funds focus on, they are sector agnostic. They are either in small cap space or they are into value oriented stocks. What we are saying is, let's look at first the mega theme, which is the demographics and who is going to benefit because of the explosion in consumption. Now, and that's what the fund focuses on. So we are not saying it's a FMCG fund. It's a fund which is owning companies where the businesses are directly reaching out to the Indian consumers. So these companies could be in FMCG space, but they could also be in media, entertainment, food, beverages, pharmaceuticals, consumer finance, auto ancillaries, all kinds of companies. And besides, the fund focuses on large cap segment of the listed equities. So about 80% plus of the fund is invested in greater than $1 billion market cap companies.
And Vikas, how do you build a portfolio for such a fund?
India is a logistically challenged place. It's very difficult to reach out to the Indian consumer on a nationwide basis. Second, as they say, there are many Indias within India. So Indian consumer is a very heterogeneous consumer. It's a very complex consumer. Having said that, there have been a number of companies in the past, last 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, who have established brand loyalties across India, and they have established their distribution networks across India. So they know how to reach out to the Indian consumer. They've understood the Indian consumer. They've set up their brand loyalties in the minds of the Indian consumer. Now these are some of these companies have also delivered very good financial performance. They have managed their balance sheets well. They've expanded within their means. So the way we create our portfolio, we tend to focus on these kind of companies who have a strong balance sheets, great management track record, established brands, established distribution networks, and that's what goes into identifying the right kind of companies which go into this portfolio.
Now, India is a very volatile market. So how do you manage this volatility?
This fund essentially overlays the portfolio with a macro hedge at the index level. This hedging there's a continuous hedging, but the level of hedging varies. It depends on a variety of factors. We have created our own proprietary hedging framework. That framework has been created with my and my team's experience, looking at various factors which can affect markets, both international and domestic, currency related factors, variety of factors, and that's what has gone into building that framework. That then creates the index overlay or a hedging overlay on the portfolio. So that dampens the portfolio's volatility. We have backtested this strategy, and the strategy has yielded more than 25% net of fees over 3, 5, 10-year period. and that's why we think this fund is a very good investment proposition.
Vikas, which types of investors are you targeting for this fund?
Essentially, we are targeting institutional investors, single family office, multi-family office investors, and even for that matter, high net worth clientele who do not have exposure to India, or who do not understand India, or who are looking for returns with lesser volatility. So more institutional kind of investors, but definitely high net worth investors as well, who do not like the volatility which goes with Indian market, and they want to be associated with the right kind of names, well managed companies in the market.
And what are some of the other unique features and characteristics of the fund that you think are important to highlight?
The fund is primarily designed for any kind of investor who can get in and get out at any point of time. It carries a fee of 1.25% plus 12.5% performance fee. So it's a low fee product related to some of the other funds which are available. We are not talking of small cap stocks. And that feature is very important, because when in times of distress, when there's issues with liquidity, a lot of Indian funds have not done well in the past, because they have been caught with a lot of small cap stocks which they are not able to get out with. So this fund tends to focus on mid to large cap segment of the market.
Vikas, I've been hearing a lot about the new political regime in India and what this means. Is your fund essentially a bet on that?
We are not saying that yes, come invest in India because India is going to do this or that. We are not selling any dreams. Investors in India in the past have been burnt because of a variety of factors. What we are selling is the ground reality, the demographics, what is coming into play, irrespective of whatever political regime, whatever investment climate. This consumer is going to earn more income. It's going to spend that because of the 4As, aspiration levels, affordability, availability and awareness, and that's what's going to lead to this mass explosion in consumption. And that's going to happen, that's bound to happen in the next 5 to 7 years, irrespective of whatever be the political climate, be the economic cycle. And that's essentially what we are promising in this fund.